Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are, of course, talking about the race for the MVP this year in the NHL, because I called it at the beginning of the year that I think this is going to be a little bit of a different type of season for the NHL. Every single year, it's always the same players, and this is the same thing for every sports league in the world, right? You have your top guys, McDavid and McKinnon and Ovechkin and Crosby, blah, 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 and they're always competing for the titles, right? But last season was a pretty high season for all of those top guys, like McDavid and Draisaitl McDavid especially getting to 150 points, Draisaitl 120 something, a big year for all of these guys. McKinnon finally breaking 100. It felt like that was the season where everyone peaked. And now, once you peak, you have to go down back a little bit, right? And this year, it is showing those cracks that this is going to be a new race, a different race with different contenders that we're not used to seeing. So this year, already jumping out of the gate, is Jack Hughes with 5 goals, 20 points so far this season. He is leading the NHL, was leading the NHL until yesterday, where Elias Pettersson finally tied it up with him. But Jack Hughes, he's led this all season long so far in offense. Now, the thing about Jack Hughes is kind of falls short on defensive things, and he just had that scary injury right into the boards. That's going to take him out, and he's already a -1. And a lot of his points are from the power play, so it is a little bit of an interesting circumstance for Jack Hughes. But offensively, he's been the #1 guy in the NHL this season so far, except tied with a guy that I had picked a couple weeks ago as being up there in the race, and it is Elias Pettersson, tying him up in points with the same exact stats: 5 goals, 15 assists, 20 points. Elias Pettersson, he's second in even strength points, right? So he's not like Jack Hughes where he's, I don't want to say relying, but is getting most of his points from the power play. And he is a +10 in the NHL, right? He is a +10 where Jack Hughes is a -1, right? This guy, Pettersson, is playing both sides of the puck. And there's the debate between Nylander and Pettersson. It's a stupid debate. Elias Pettersson is one of the best players in Vancouver. I'm going to make a whole video about soon. But Vancouver is finally, they should have been this good all along, right? This shouldn't be a surprise that they're actually kind of kicking this season, because they have had the pieces. They just needed to go, like the Devils did with Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier and all those guys on that team. The Vancouver Canucks have had those guys in Besser and Miller and Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, and now they're just finally lighting it up, finally. And Pettersson showing through, and right now, if between these two, I would probably side with Pettersson, just because he got the defensive side of the game as well, and he can produce 5-on-5, which is huge. David Pastrnak, a guy that's always up in the running and probably the most prominent name from recent history. Anyways, 9 goals, 7 assists, 16 points. He as well is a +10. Interesting circumstance here, right? Because now this kind of not the opposite, but a shift from Pettersson with 20 points getting most of his assists. This guy, Pastrnak, he's scoring goals. David Pastrnak, unreal goal scorer. He is #1, or tied for #1 for even strength goals. And he's tied for second in points. So, well, I guess a lot of people are tied with 13, 12, and then 11, right? So, depending how you look at it. But in one game, he can easily be #1. So, he's right up there at the top in even strength points. And once again, I think this is, you shift Jack Hughes to down here. Hughes is unreal and maybe the best player in the world at this very current second. But when it comes to truly being the most valuable player to your team, I think Pastrnak and especially Pettersson are above him at this point. Alex DeBrincat, I wanted to put on the board because he was doing so good, and he's just kind of slowed down recently, and it's kind of annoying because he was doing so good, and he's no longer tied for first in goals. I don't know why that's written there. He was tied for first in goals with Frank Vatrano for a second, then the guy I'll talk about in a second has surpassed him once again. But 9 goals, 5 assists, 14 points. DeBrincat rubs me as a type of player that he started off so hot, and I think he's just in his current cooldown, right? That these guys are going to hit eventually, Hughes with his now injury, Pettersson, Pastrnak eventually going to hit a little rough patch. I think DeBrincat is going to run into that. It has run into his, and he's going to kick off again. So for me, he's still in the running, 14 points. He's only 6 points behind these guys. He's got 9 goals. He beats everyone out except Pasternak here. And then, once again, the guy I'll talk about in a second. So DeBrincat, I think just with the better chemistry as the Red Wings keep going and how good they're playing, DeBrincat will also get up those points, and I think he is still pretty solid all around. Mikko Rantanen is finally the year that I think he's going to get his due diligence, because everyone talks about Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, and absolutely those guys are fantastic, but Mikko Rantanen gets swept under the rug, and he's like beaten MacKinnon in points, and I know he gets injured a lot, but he beats him in points every single season except last year, and he was right there up with him still. Mikko Rantanen is not just as good as MacKinnon, but he is like just one notch down from him. Rantanen is unreal. 6 goals, 8 assists, 14 points. He rose me as the guy kind of like DeBrincat that he hasn't hit the full throttle yet. I think he's still just kind of going along. I think he's going to get his big stretch of 2 weeks and get like 4 goals and 4 assists, get 8 points, and just knock him up the list. So I think Rantanen, he's going to get that sooner than later. I think he's going to hit his hot streak soon. And for me, he's going to beat out Makar and MacKinnon this season. This is his year, and because I think this is a different year where guys like Draisaitl and McDavid, who I'll get to in a second, are not going to be in the running. Austin Matthews leading the year right now in goals. I mean, that's just what he does. He's unreal. But my issue is more the consistency, right? I mean, sure, he gets 3 hat tricks in 11 games, right? That's amazing. But between those stretches of goals is nothing. He gets like an assist there, here and there. Outside of those games, he's only scored 2 goals, right? And it's interesting, right? I don't really know what to make of that. Because, I mean, you have a guy like Pettersson who's a plus 10 and is getting assists and goals. Matthews, 11 goals, 12 points. I feel like that's not accurate. But he's a zero. He's a zero. Like, things are not, and that's not just on him, but just for me, I'd personally, at this very current second, if I'm gonna have my main player, it would be Pettersson or Pasternak. They seem to have a more overall game, more consistency than Matthews is getting, and that's I don't know. Matthews, it's an interesting case to me. It's like, would you rather have a guy score 10 goals every 10 games, or would you rather have him score 1 goal every game for 10 games? It's an interesting debate that you can have there. But Matthews still unreal, and he beats out other guys on the list right now. Nathan MacKinnon he beats out. He beats out Draisaitl. He beats out McDavid. He beats out who's some other guys that Matthew Tkachuk at this second. Who's like people always in the running. Pasternak's always up there, but I think he beats him right now. So at this current second for the Hart, I would probably give it to Pettersson. Just because it's crazy what the Canucks are doing, and without him, I don't think they do it. And I think he's more valuable than what Jack Hughes brings, and I think it goes to Pettersson at this second. But that is all I gotta say. So thank you for watching this. If you've made it to this point, please, I'm begging you, pick up your free subscription. And until next time, too sweet, have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.